The universe has rules, until humans arrived. The eternal laws. For 8 billion years, the universe had operated under certain rules. Physical laws that governed everything from the smallest quantum particle to the largest galactic supercluster. The ancient species of the consortium knew these laws intimately. They had mapped them, measured them, and built their entire civilization around respecting their absolute nature. There were exactly 127 fundamental constants in physics. Speeds had limits. Energy required specific conditions to transform. Matter behaved in predictable ways. These weren't suggestions or guidelines. They were the foundation of reality itself. The consortium had achieved mastery over nearly everything the universe permitted. They could fold space, manipulate gravity, harness the energy of stars, and extend lifespans across millennia. 17 species from across the galaxy had joined together, sharing knowledge accumulated over billions of years. They were the pinnacle of what was possible within the rules. Then humanity discovered something impossible. The accident that changed everything. Dr. Maria Santos hadn't meant to break physics. She was just trying to solve a simple problem: how to make interstellar travel affordable for a species that had barely colonized its own solar system. In a small laboratory orbiting Mars, she was running her 3,000th failed experiment with exotic matter manipulation. The equipment was salvaged, the budget was non-existent, and her colleagues had started taking bets on when she'd give up. The experiment should have failed like all the others. The particle accelerator fired. The exotic matter sample should have decayed in exactly 0.0004 seconds, just like quantum mechanics predicted. Just like it had 2,999 times before. Instead, it didn't decay at all. For 17 seconds, a piece of exotic matter remained stable in conditions where every known law of physics said it shouldn't exist. Maria stared at her readings, convinced her instruments were broken. She ran diagnostics. Everything checked out. She ran the experiment again. 23 seconds of stability. Again. 41 seconds. Maria's hands started shaking. She knew what this meant, even if her mind refused to accept it. Somewhere in her equipment configuration, in some combination of magnetic fields and energy frequencies, she had stumbled onto something that shouldn't be possible. She had found a loophole in the laws of physics. The consortium takes notice. 3 weeks later, Maria's research paper hit the scientific community like a bomb. Most human scientists dismissed it as experimental error. But the paper's electromagnetic signature was picked up by consortium monitoring stations that had been passively observing Earth for centuries. Within hours, a ship appeared in Earth's orbit. It was beautiful and terrifying. A vessel 3 miles long, constructed from materials that seemed to shift between states of matter. The consortium had sent one of their science vessels, the Eternal Inquiry, crewed by the galaxy's most brilliant minds. They hadn't come to make first contact. They'd come to correct what they assumed was a mistake. Ambassador Torval, a being whose species had been studying physics for 4 million years, appeared on every screen across Earth. His form was vaguely humanoid, but his skin rippled with equations that glowed and shifted. "People of Earth," he said in perfect English, somehow speaking every language simultaneously. "We have detected anomalous readings from your system. We are here to investigate and assist. One of your scientists has published results that appear to violate established physical laws. This is, of course, impossible. We will help identify the error." It wasn't a request. It was a statement of fact delivered with the casual authority of a species that had never been wrong about physics in 4 million years. Maria found herself transported aboard the Eternal Inquiry before she could even respond. No violence, no force, just a gentle field of energy that wrapped around her and carried her from her laboratory to their ship in the span of a heartbeat. She materialized in a chamber that hurt to look at. The walls seemed to exist in more dimensions than her eyes could process. Around her stood 7 beings, each from a different species, each representing billions of years of accumulated knowledge. "Dr. Santos," Torval said gently. "Please show us your work." We will find the error together. The demonstration. Maria was terrified. These beings could probably unravel the secrets of her DNA by glancing at her. They had technology that made Earth's most advanced computers look like stone tools. And they thought she'd made a mistake. But she was also stubborn. It was the same stubbornness that had kept her running experiments when everyone said she was wasting her time. There's no error, she said quietly. Torval's equations flickered with what might have been amusement. Dr. Santos, with respect, your species has been studying advanced physics for less than 2 centuries. We have been doing so for millions of years. The laws you claim to have circumvented are fundamental constants. They cannot be broken. I didn't break them, Maria replied. I found a way around them. The chamber fell silent. The 7 beings exchanged glances, communicating in ways Maria couldn't perceive. Demonstrate, Torval finally said. They gave her access to their laboratory, a space filled with equipment so advanced Maria could barely understand what she was looking at. But the principles were the same. Matter, energy, fields, frequencies. Just vastly more precise than anything humans had built. She replicated her experiment. The consortium scientists watched, their instruments recording every quantum fluctuation, every energy spike, every subatomic interaction. The exotic matter stabilized. 5 minutes. 10. 20. One of the alien scientists, a being made of crystallized light named Charnel, spoke for the first time. This is impossible. It's happening, Maria said simply. Torval's equations were flashing rapidly now, running calculations at speeds that would have melted human computers. The energy configuration, you're not generating a stable field. You're creating a mathematical paradox in spacetime that forces reality to resolve in favor of stability rather than decay. I know, Maria said. Your physics says exotic matter decays because of quantum uncertainty. But if you create conditions where the uncertainty itself becomes paradoxical, reality chooses the most stable outcome. It's not breaking the rules. It's using the rules against themselves. The silence that followed. The chamber was completely silent for exactly 97 seconds. Maria counted them, her heart pounding. Finally, Charnel spoke, her voice resonating with overtones that suggested multiple conversations happening simultaneously. In 4 billion years of studying physics, across 17 civilizations and 10,000 research institutions, not one of us conceived of this approach. You were too close to it, Maria said, gaining confidence. You understood the rules so well that you couldn't see past them. We're new to this. We don't have millions of years of assumptions. We just have problems to solve and a willingness to try stupid ideas until something works. Torval's form seemed to solidify, becoming more defined. Dr. Santos, do you understand what you've done? This technique could revolutionize energy storage, faster-than-light travel, matter manipulation, quantum computing. Every field of physics will need to be reconsidered. I know, Maria said quietly. That's why I published it. That's why I wanted everyone to know. Another being spoke, one whose name Maria couldn't pronounce, whose species had been spacefaring since before Earth's dinosaurs. Your species is dangerous. Not because you're aggressive. Because you're unpredictable. You break rules we thought were unbreakable. Is that why you're here? Maria asked. To stop us? No, Torval said, and something in his tone had changed. The casual superiority was gone, replaced by something that might have been respect. We're here because the universe just became far more interesting than we thought possible. And because if humans can find one loophole in physics, they'll find others. He gestured, and images appeared in the air around them. Star maps, equations, technological schematics. The consortium has maintained galactic order for billions of years by understanding and respecting the limits of what's possible. You've just proven those limits are negotiable. So what happens now? Maria asked. Torval's equations flickered in patterns that might have been a smile. Now, Dr. Santos, you're going to teach us how to think like a human. Because if we don't learn, and if other species like yours emerge, the galaxy we've built will become obsolete. When humans teach the teachers. The university at the edge of forever. 6 months after Maria's demonstration, the consortium did something they hadn't done in 3 million years. They built a new research institution. They called it the Nexus, and they placed it in neutral space, equidistant from all member worlds. But this facility was different from their ancient universities. This one was designed specifically to study one thing: human problem-solving methodology. 300 of Earth's brightest scientists were invited. Not just physicists, but mathematicians, engineers, artists, philosophers, even a jazz musician and a professional chef. The consortium had analyzed human breakthrough moments throughout history and discovered something disturbing. Humans often solved problems by thinking in ways that made no logical sense. They wanted to understand how. Maria found herself appointed as co-director, working alongside Torval. The partnership was strange. He had 4 million years of knowledge. She had 37 years of life experience and a tendency to try things just to see what would happen. Your approach to science is chaotic, Torval observed one day as they watched a human team attempt to solve a materials engineering problem. You don't follow systematic methodology. You make intuitive leaps that have no logical foundation. And yet we get results, Maria countered, watching as Dr. James Chen, a metallurgist, combined 3 elements that consortium science said shouldn't form stable bonds. They did anyway. That's what concerns us, Torval admitted. You shouldn't succeed as often as you do. Your failure rate should be catastrophic. Instead, you're discovering things we missed despite having infinitely more experience. The pattern that wasn't. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Tokyo, was the first to articulate what made humans different. She'd been working with a consortium research team trying to improve quantum entanglement communication when she noticed something strange. You always look for patterns, she said during a presentation to the assembled scientists. Every time you approach a problem, you search your databases for similar situations. You apply known solutions. You work within frameworks. The alien scientists nodded. This was proper scientific method. We don't do that, Yuki continued. We can't. We don't have 4 million years of data. So instead, we ask, what if things work completely differently than we think? We assume our understanding is wrong and work backwards from there. She pulled up her latest results. Your quantum entanglement has a maximum range of 50,000 light-years before coherence breaks down. You've accepted this as a fundamental limit. I asked, what if it's not a limit of physics, but a limit of perspective? The holographic display shifted, showing her experiment. By treating entangled particles not as connected points but as single entities existing in multiple locations simultaneously, I eliminated the concept of distance entirely. Range is now unlimited. Charnel's crystalline form flickered rapidly. That's the same principle. You've just redefined the conceptual framework. Exactly, Yuki said. Sometimes the solution isn't new physics. It's new philosophy. You have the knowledge. You just frame it in ways that create artificial limitations. The cooking lesson. The strangest breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Chef Antoine Dubois, who'd been invited because the consortium wanted to study human creativity. He'd spent weeks watching alien scientists work, saying nothing, just observing. Then one day he invited the entire research team to his kitchen. I'm going to teach you to make risotto, he announced. Torval's equations flickered with confusion. Chef Dubois, we're trying to solve faster-than-light communication problems. We don't have time for. Humor me, Antoine interrupted. 1 hour. What followed was the strangest hour the consortium scientists had ever experienced. Antoine walked them through the process, heating the pan, toasting the rice, adding broth gradually, stirring constantly, feeling the texture change, tasting, adjusting. You're measuring nothing, observed Krival, an engineer whose species had perfected precision manufacturing. How do you know when it's correct? I don't measure, Antoine said. I feel. I taste. I adjust. Every batch of rice is different. Every pan heats differently. If I followed the exact same steps every time, I'd get terrible results. The art is responding to what's actually happening, not what should be happening according to theory. The kitchen fell silent except for the sound of stirring. You're describing adaptive algorithms, Torval said slowly. Real-time problem-solving based on continuous sensory feedback rather than predetermined parameters. I'm describing cooking, Antoine corrected. But yes, also that. Dr. Lisa Adeyemi, a neuroscientist, started laughing. He's right. We don't approach problems with fixed solutions. We approach them with flexible strategies that adapt in real time. That's why our science looks chaotic to you. It's not systematic. It's responsive. The revolution spreads. Within a year, the Nexus had produced 17 breakthrough discoveries. New propulsion systems, materials that shouldn't exist, communication methods that violated information theory, power generation that exceeded theoretical maximums. Each discovery followed the same pattern. A human would approach a problem without respecting the established limitations, find a workaround that made the limitation irrelevant, and the consortium scientists would realize they'd been solving the wrong problem all along. But something else was happening too. The alien scientists were changing. Charnel started experimenting with illogical combinations of materials just to see what happened. Creval began designing ships based on aesthetic principles rather than pure efficiency and discovered they performed better. Torval himself started asking what-if questions that had no logical foundation. They were learning to think like humans. And it terrified the consortium leadership. The verdict. The High Council convened on the consortium's founding world, a planet whose civilization was older than some galaxies. 500 representatives gathered to discuss a single question: what do we do about humanity? They're dangerous, argued Councillor Vexnor, whose species had helped establish the consortium 8 billion years ago. Not because they're aggressive, but because they're infectious. Our own scientists are abandoning systematic methodology. They're pursuing research that has no theoretical foundation. We're losing our discipline. Or, countered Councillor Marthala, we're regaining our creativity. When was the last major breakthrough we achieved? Not an optimization or refinement. A true discovery? Silence. The answer was 18 million years ago. Humanity challenges every assumption we've built our civilization on, Marthala continued. They ignore limits we consider absolute. They find solutions we declared impossible. And in doing so, they've shown us that our greatest strength, our accumulated knowledge, has become our greatest weakness. We know so much that we've stopped discovering. The debate raged for 3 days. Finally, the High Council reached its decision, and Torval was chosen to deliver the news to Earth. He appeared in the UN Assembly, his form solid and serious. World leaders held their breath, waiting for judgment. The consortium has deliberated on humanity's place in the galactic community, Torval began. Your species is young, reckless, and fundamentally unpredictable. You break rules we consider sacred. You achieve things we declared impossible. You've disrupted billions of years of established scientific tradition. He paused, and something that might have been a smile flickered across his equations. Therefore, the consortium formally recognizes humanity as a full member species and requests that you continue doing exactly what you've been doing. The galaxy has become predictable, stagnant, comfortable. You've reminded us that the universe is fundamentally strange, that knowledge should inspire questions rather than answers, and that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to ignore everything you know and try something stupid. Maria, watching from the observation gallery, felt tears in her eyes. There is one condition, Torval added. Every consortium research institution will now include human advisors whose sole purpose is to ask uncomfortable questions and suggest illogical approaches. You will help us remember how to be wrong, how to be surprised, and how to discover. The New Age. 10 years later, the galaxy had changed in ways no one predicted. Consortium science, infused with human unpredictability, had entered a new golden age. Discoveries that would have taken millions of years were happening annually. But the most significant change was philosophical. The 17 species of the consortium had built their civilization on the belief that the universe had rules and wisdom meant understanding them. Humanity taught them something different. The universe has rules, but it also has loopholes, exceptions, and paradoxes. True wisdom isn't knowing every rule. It's knowing when to ignore them. Maria stood in the Nexus observation deck, watching ships from 100 worlds arrive and depart. Each carried scientists eager to learn the human method of thinking sideways, of questioning fundamentals, of trying things just to see what happened. Torval joined her, his equations now incorporating elements of chaos mathematics that would have horrified his ancestors. "Your species changed us," he said simply. "You changed too," Maria replied. "You just needed permission to stop being perfect." In the distance, a ship activated a new type of drive that technically shouldn't work. It folded space in ways that violated causality, created impossible geometries, and somehow traveled faster than physics allowed. It was built using human principles. Try it and see what happens. And across the galaxy, ancient species looked at the universe with new eyes and asked the most human question of all: what if we're wrong about everything? The age of certainty was over. The age of discovery had begun.